Okay, so right now you should be getting out your notes, getting out your computer, and working on your Chapter 8, Section 4 warm-up to get ready for your quiz. Go ahead and pause this. Remember, you get 10 minutes to work on this, and then also to write down the essential question for today. And the essential question for today's notes, Section 5 notes, will be explain how you subtract rational expressions. So today we're going to do subtraction in your notes. So for the Section 5 notes, the essential question is explain how you subtract rational expressions. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to work out the warm-ups that you should have finished now, just to remind you what we did the other day or yesterday. Okay, so first, even though I don't have a blank here for it, you should be looking for the LCD. And so remember, you look at the numbers 2 and 4. That means 4 would be that LCD. And then you always take the exponent with the highest value. So x squared. So 4x squared is our least common denominator. So then you ask yourself, what do I multiply 2x squared by to make it look like 4x squared? Well, it already has the x squared, so you only need to multiply by 2. Okay, so that gives you 2x now all over 4x squared. Now again, you don't want to go back and simplify that and cross out x's in the 2 and the 4 because then we wouldn't have like denominators, so leave that alone. Now we have 4x in the denominator, but we need 4x squared, so you should multiply by x. So then that would give us this. Okay, so now we have 4x squared in the denominator. Combine like terms on top. 2x plus 3x is 5x. Now, once you get this single fraction, then you ask yourself one more time, can I simplify this any further? And we can, because I can take an x away from here and an x away from here, and there would be one x left over here. So then my final answer should have been 5 over 4x. And before we crossed out, or you can just look at your LCD, if you set the LCD equal to 0, 4x squared equals 0 means x cannot equal 0. Okay, on number 2, so our LCD, since we have binomials here, parentheses, I don't know why that parentheses is not showing up. So then x plus 2, x minus 2 should have been your LCD. So then here, I need to multiply by x minus 2 on this one. So I'll have to write it down here. So 4 parentheses x minus 2 is what we're going to have there. That's what that first one will be. And then here, I need to multiply by x plus 2. So then I would have 3x plus 6 on that if you just when you distribute it. So then when I distribute this one, I should get 4x minus 8. So let me change that. So when I distribute, then I get 4x minus 8. Now we combine it into one fraction. X plus 2x minus 2 is the denominator. 4x plus 3x is 7x. Negative 8 plus 6 is negative 2. We can't factor 7x minus 2 anymore. And you do have to remember that there would be parentheses around that because you see subtraction. Our restrictions on the denominator, you would have positive or negative 2. And that's as far as you can go with your answer. Okay. And again, that 7x minus 2 is inside, so you can't cancel it with the x minus 2 on the bottom. All right, so that's the warm-up. Now let's go ahead and take a look at your worksheet. So if you need to pause for a minute while you get your worksheet out, go ahead. I'm going to do a couple of problems. So I've been doing 2 problems each night, or each day over each night's homework. So I'm going to do number 3 and number 5. Okay. Number 3 is like numbers 1 and 2, and then number 4 is like number 5. So me doing number 5, which should be okay. All right, so let's look at number 3. Oops. Okay. So on number 3, our least common denominator should be 4x squared. So then you ask yourself, what do I multiply x squared by to make it 4x squared? Well, that's easy. That one's a 4. You do have to multiply it there. So that would be 4x plus 8 all over 4x squared. 4x to get to be 4x squared is I need to multiply by x. So then that gives me 5x over 4x squared. Make it one fraction. So combine like terms on top. So that'll be 9x plus 8. Then you have to remember, since you see addition sign, that this is in parentheses. So you cannot cancel the 8 with the 4 or the x with the x squared. And there's nothing that divides into both 9x and 8. So then your answer is just 9x plus 8 all over 4x squared. And our restrictions are x cannot equal 0. This 9x plus 8 won't give us a restriction because it's in the numerator and we only care about the denominator equaling 0. Okay. All right, and then number 5. Oh, it didn't give me that page. Then I'll do number 4 because number 4 is like number 5, I guess. I don't know why I didn't print that number. Oh, it's probably on the next page. Yep, there it is. Okay, number 5. First, you need to make 5 a fraction. So I'm going to put that over 1 because how you make a whole number a fraction is you put it over 1. So our LCD is just going to be 1 times x minus 3. But since it's just times 1, that's not going to change anything. So I don't need the 1 in front. So our denominator, our LCD, is just x minus 3. Well, the first one I don't need to change because it already has x minus 3 in the denominator. But I do need to multiply this top and bottom by x minus 3. And then distribute that. So that'll be plus 5x minus 15 all over x minus 3. So I make this one fraction, x minus 3, combine like terms, which there are none, so I just write this in standard form. The only things that multiply to 15 are 5 and 3, which won't give me 5 in the middle, and 1 and 15. So that's done. You can't factor that. But do remember that this x squared plus 5x minus 15, since you see addition and subtraction signs, they're all glued together. So I'm going to put parentheses around them. You can't do this x on the bottom with this x squared on top. So then your answer is just x squared plus 5x minus 15 all over x minus 3. Restrictions, x cannot equal positive 3. The 1 on the bottom does not give you a restriction because remember it doesn't have a variable when you go back to the original equation or original expression. All right, and number 4 is very similar. You put 2 over 1, and then your LCD would be x plus 4, and then etc. Okay. All right, so go ahead and close everything up. Just have a pencil and a calculator and put up your dividers. and get ready to take the quiz. Once you're done with the quiz, turn it over to the blank side so that the substitute knows you're finished. Go ahead and pause this video and then start it up when you're ready to take notes after everybody's done with their quiz. All right, so now we are going to take section 5 notes. So the essential question, like I said earlier, is explain how to subtract rational expressions. So make sure you get that written down. And through these notes, you can pause whenever you need to so that you can make sure you get everything down. All right. So your main idea for today is subtract rational expressions. So here are the steps to subtracting, which are very similar to what we did yesterday with addition. You factor everything that you can, state the restrictions on the domain, find a least common denominator the same way that we did before. Then you multiply to change the fraction so that they have the LCD. The only difference is the subtraction part. So the subtraction, you have to subtract a negative. You have to distribute the negative to all of the numerator pieces on the second fraction. So you'll have that on there. It'll make more sense when we do an example. So make sure you write the subtract rational expressions as your main idea. All right, so let's do some subtracting. So it says find the difference. It doesn't say state the restrictions. We're still going to do it just to make sure that you remember how to do it. But if it was a quiz or a test and it didn't ask you, you wouldn't have to. Okay, so part A, x over 7 minus 2x over 9. So our LCD, what's that going to be? Our LCD is going to be 9 times 7, which is 63. So there's no variables in the denominators to deal with. Okay, so then let's go ahead and change it. So what do I need to multiply 7 by to get 63? 9. And what do I need to multiply 9 by to get 63? 7. So then that gives us 9x over 63 minus 14x over 63. All right, now let's make this one fraction. So our denominator is 63. And then we're just going to subtract. When there's just a single term 14 here, what I was saying about distributing is this would become positive and this would be negative. So 9x plus negative 14 is negative 5x. So then we look one time, remember, to see if you can simplify this any further, and we can't. So this is the answer. And this one, what would the restrictions be on this one? There are no restrictions because there's just a number 63 and up here there was just a 7 and a 9. So when there's no variables in the denominator, then it will not give you a restriction. So you're done. So subtraction is very much like what you do for addition. It's just that you have subtract sign in between them now. Okay. On part B, so our LCD on part B, what do you think it should be? Should be 6x squared, because you have the 3 and the 6, so 6 would be the LCD there, and you take the highest exponent. So we have 11 over 3x squared minus 7 over 6x. So then now we ask ourselves, what do I multiply 3x squared by to get 6x squared? Times it by 2. What do I multiply 6x by to make it 6x squared? X. So now I have 22 over 6x squared minus 7x over 6x squared. So we have a 6x squared as our denominator when I write my single fraction. And this is 22 minus 7x. So go ahead and distribute the negative there and change that to addition. So then now, when I write this in standard form, you put negative 7x plus 22. And we can't factor negative 7x plus 22, so this is my answer. Whoops. Maybe if I can box it. This is the answer. And if we had to do restrictions, again, x would not equal 0. All right. And then part C, I'm gonna have to go ahead and erase some of this stuff. I'll leave part B there for those of you that are still copying. All right. So then on part C, we have 2 over st squared minus 3 over s squared t. Okay, so our LCD, we've got 2 variables, that's okay. So we have s and s squared. So remember, you take the highest exponent. Then we have t squared and t. So again, you take the highest exponent. So our LCD is s squared, t squared, multiplied together. So then you look at st squared and say, okay, what do I need to multiply this denominator by to make it s squared, t squared? Yep, you need to multiply by an s. So that's now 2s over s squared, t squared. Minus this denominator, we have the s squared part, we just need t squared, so I need to multiply by t. So that gives you 3t all over s squared, t squared. Now let's make it one fraction, so s squared, t squared. And 2s minus 3t, so we can change the opposite there. And those are like not like terms, so then I would just get 2s minus 3t. There is a subtraction sign, so you do have to remember that there would still be parentheses around that, so you can't cancel the s with the s squared or the t with the t squared on top and bottom. So this is your answer. And then our restrictions, if we had to do them, would be s cannot equal 0 and t cannot equal 0, because there's 2 variables in the denominator. So when you set s squared, t squared equal to 0, s can't be 0 and t can't be 0. Otherwise, it'd make the denominator 0. All right, that's example 1. Next, example 2 is the one that has the binomials there. Okay, so then on these, much like yesterday, for part A, my LCD is going to be these 2 parentheses. So x minus 3 and x plus 4. And again, it's just the denominators. Don't worry about the numerator. Please common denominator. All right, so then we're going to have to change these. Okay, so this one has the x minus 3, but it's missing the x plus 4. So that tells you that is what you need to multiply top and bottom by. Over here, x plus 4 is missing the x minus 3, so you multiply that on top and bottom. So that gives us 3x plus 12 all over those parentheses. Then when you distribute, that's x squared minus 3x all over those parentheses. Okay, let's make it one fraction. And then remember, we have this minus sign, and there's more than 2 things up here. So this is what I was talking about with distributing that. So that becomes addition, then that's opposite. So it would be negative x squared, and this becomes its opposite, which would be positive 3x. Okay, so that minus sign, if there's more than one thing in the numerator, you distribute that negative out. So now I combine like terms, I would get negative x squared plus 6x plus 12. And you could try to factor the numerator, but it is not factorable. We do our restrictions, which are x cannot equal what? -4 or -3. So here's your answer, and then your restrictions. So remember, you can pause this at any time. All right, now let's look at part B. All right, so we have 5 over 2x minus 3 minus x over, we can take out a 2. So then that would leave 3 minus 2x. So always factor. Now I'm going to show you a trick that's very helpful. Okay. If I would have divided out a -2, then that would make this -3 and positive 2x. The reason why I want to do that is so I get a common denominator, or close to the same denominator, because right over here I have 2x minus 3, and if I rearrange this denominator, I would have -2 parentheses 2x minus 3. So again, what I did first was I took the 6 minus 4x, and we can divide out a 2, so I just took out a positive 2 at first. And that left me with 3 minus 2x. Now 3 minus 2x was really, really close to 2x minus 3, so that's why I divided out -2 instead of just positive 2, so that's why in green I put a -2 there. And when I do that, then I have to change the signs of the inside item so that when I redistribute, so if I did -2 times -3, I'd still get positive 6. And if I did -2 times positive 2x, I would get -4x, which is what was in the beginning. So now I have this, x over -2 parentheses 2x minus 3, which is great because now I have the 2x minus 3 parentheses. So that's part of my LCD is 2x minus 3 in parentheses. Then it's also going to be this -2 here, just like we did yesterday. You have the same parenthesis, great. You just use that parenthesis once if it shows up once in each fraction. And then I had that -2 that I canceled out earlier, or I'm sorry, that I had factored out. Okay, so now looking at this second one, -x or minus in front of x all over 2x minus 3, that stays the same because the denominator looks like the LCD. But on this other one, I need to multiply by -2 on top and bottom so that I can make the denominator look like the LCD. So then that would give me -10 all over -2 parentheses 2x minus 3. All right, let's make this one fraction. And so this is minus, so I would do plus negative, so that's -x when I put this in standard form, minus 10. Now here's the thing. I'm going to do my restrictions. So that would be x cannot equal 3 over 2, because you would set 2x minus 3 equal to 0, add 3, then divide by 2. That -2 in front does not give you a restriction. Now, I can divide all of these parts that I'm circling. I can divide this, this, and this by a -1. If I divide all of those by -1, your answer then is going to be positive x plus 10 all over 2 parentheses 2x minus 3. I don't have to be able to divide the parenthesis by that because I'm already multiplying by that parenthesis by -2. So by dividing -2 by -1, I'm already dealing with the parentheses because they're attached. So there's my answer. Here's your restrictions. So again, the trick on this one was that it originally was 6 minus 4x, but if I divide out a -2, like I did here in green, that gives me 2x minus 3 so that I have a matching parenthesis. That's going to be so much easier doing it that way. And then you can follow the rest of the work. If you want to rewatch this video or look at the work or anything like that, it is on Schoology. I'll post this video. Okay. All right, then part B, or I'm sorry, part C, we have x over 5 minus x minus 3 all over x squared minus 25. Okay, so let's factor the denominators. I'm going to do this one first over here. So this x squared minus 25, remember, factors to x plus 5, x minus 5. So that's what that is now. Now notice this 5 minus x almost looks like either the x minus 5 or the x plus 5, but it almost looks like the x minus 5. So we're going to do our trick again, where I take out the -1. So I'm going to factor out a -1 and switch these around. So if I take out a -1, I'm now going to have a positive x and a minus 5. So I'm just putting it in standard form. Now, if you redistribute it, you get -x and +5, which you see up in this parenthesis here. So that's now factored. So now thinking about our LCD, what do you think the LCD is going to be? -1, parenthesis, x plus 5 and x minus 5. Okay. So now I have this. I have x over -1, parenthesis, x minus 5, minus 3 over the x plus 5, x minus 5. So we ask ourselves, what do I need to multiply this first denominator by to make it look like the LCD? And what it is we're missing the x plus 5. So I need to multiply top and bottom by x plus 5. I need to distribute this x squared plus 5x all over all that stuff. Minus this one has the 2 parentheses, but it's missing the negative, so I'm going to multiply by -1. So this will be -3 now over all that stuff. Okay, so then I'm going to make one fraction. So you have this. And then remember you change plus, and then you change that to its opposite. So now I have x squared plus 5x plus 3. If I do my restrictions before I cancel or factor any further, you should get x cannot equal what? Plus minus 5. Because you have a plus 5 and a minus 5 parenthesis. The -1 in front does not give you a restriction. And then our answer is just this. Because the x squared plus 5x plus 3 is not factorable. There's nothing that multiplies to 3 and gives you 5 when you add it. So there's your answers and your restrictions. And if you need help with this, make sure you see me during homeroom on Monday to get anything cleared up that you need to before you take your quiz on Monday over subtraction. It's very similar to addition, it's just with that minus sign, we change the minus sign to addition and then distribute the negative to everything in the numerator of the second fraction. All right, so go ahead and work on this exit slip. I'll get you started like I did yesterday, and then I want you to try it. Once you have the answer, then go up to the sub, and the sub has a roster, and you'll show your answer to the sub. They'll check it off if you have it right and give you your point for your exit slip. Otherwise, they'll send you back and you'll have to rework on it to get the right answer and restrictions. Okay? Let's go ahead and let's factor. So I thought I'd help you get started. So this is x plus 2. Now, how do we factor x squared plus 4x plus 3? Well, we should have x plus 1 and x plus 3. Minus 6 all over x plus 3. You can't factor anymore. So our LCD, what should that be? Well, both of them have an x plus 3, so I just need one x plus 3, and then one has an x plus 1, so we need that. So you need both the x plus 3 and the x plus 1 in your denominator. So now finish out the math. Change the denominators of the fractions that you need to, then do the subtraction on the numerators, and then make sure you can't factor anymore and state your restrictions. Okay. Then after you're done getting your exit slip checked, make sure that you do a repetition in your notes and then work on your your section 5 worksheet. The answer key, the substitute has the answer key, but you can only check the answer key if you've got problems done to be able to check. You can't copy the answer key. Okay.